Well, hello there, everybody. How are y'all doing? Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in, being a part of the journey. And as they say, this is hump day. Well, it's a day. It's a day in the life of us all, in which we all have a part to play, in which we're all a part of. And as I hit that button, and as I hit that button, we are all good to go. We are 5 by 5 right down the pipeline. So there we go. So, favor be to us all. Speak it all the time. Wake up in the middle of the night speaking it. Hope you do too, because you'd be amazed to see how many times in when you have forces that are basically in this huge pinball machine, how many times that favor comes into play? You're not even aware of it. So anyway, you know, abracadabra. We create what we speak. So there you go. And nothing missing, nothing broken. Be of service to others. You're planting seeds that when you have the need, you'll never have to worry about not having enough seed. There you go. Hello, Gogo, all the way from Croatia. Hello, everybody in the chat room. Chloe, thank you. Chloe wins. How you doing, darling? Have to get you on sometime. Love that. Chris, what time of the day is it over there? About 6 p.m. or so? Good to see you, brother. Grace, hello. How are you, my darling? Josh, good to see you, Mr. Floyd's Universe. Thank you for hosting Chloe. I see that. Millie, how are you? Good to see you, darling. Dave, good to see you as well. And Jet, John Price, how are you, good sir? Let's see. Odin, how are you? Good to see you. What a great name. Dr. Manuel, good to see you as well. Favor be to you. Ice Station Zed, what's up? Good to see you. And Deborah Sloan, much love to you, darling. Indeed. And Shirley, how are you? Good to see you as well. And I think I may have Rick. How are you doing, brother? Trust that the body is revitalizing, recharging, increased strength, stamina, vitality. Kathy, good to see you as well. And as we pull out, Colleen, hello, CJ, and Joyce. I think I got everybody. If I haven't seen you, then hey, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Um, Thought this was interesting. I wrote this over the weekend. You always like to carry something you can write your thoughts on. And I'll just share this because I like to edify you. So while I'm out there in the middle of the woods in the quiet of nature, quiet can be like this cacophony, this really loud noise. Yeah. It says, I exist in my own realm, whereas I can exist in many realms at the same time. True. There are some, such as this one, that you are limited to what you can and cannot do. When you immerse yourself into realms such as this one, you can actually become attached to it for a period of time. And while in these realms, I am limited as to what I can and cannot do. At any time, I'm free to depart and move on to others. Each realm is unique, and this one is unique unto itself. It is a realm where so many other consciousness also come to experience as well. So many consciousness, I'm not even consciously aware. What makes this realm different is that everyone forgets who they are and walking and willingly allow this to happen. We allow our identities to be momentarily forgotten, but not always. Your identity will always come back. Look within and you'll see what that identity looks like. Each know the time is limited And once the experience is complete, you return to your organic and original realm. Well, there you go. Quiet thoughts with our Wayne Steiger. So, peace be to us all, everyone. Hey, Trina, how are you? Much love to you. Gaia, how are you? And Paul, good to see you as well. So many beautiful people. I mean, I just look through here and, you know, you get the love thing going. The love boat was watching Jordan Maxwell. I remember old Maxwell's, they would say. Cheers, everyone. So, I think we're going to have a really good discussion. Here's a thought, and I've seen this in the comments, so I'm just going to add it in as though I was typing the comment. So, I mentioned yesterday with the ladies, and wasn't that a show? And what y'all don't get to see is like afterwards, we're on for like another 30, sometimes an hour afterwards, just talking. And it just increases that bond, you know. But I said yesterday, why is it that the vast majority of us here, because if you live in the West, you have been indoctrinated. So why is it that we are taught about God, but it's through a religion none of us are a part of? Yet we want to be scholarly. We want to see the etymology of the word. And I'm just telling you, I'm not Jewish. I'm not There are no Hebrews. The Hebrews are a lost race of the Jewish people. But I'm not Jewish. So why would I care what they describe their God to be? And why should I adapt what they say that their God is as to being my God? I mean, we get all hung up. We get our panties tied into a knot because, well, where did we come from? We came from Adam. It's the dogma. Don't you understand? It has to do with atoms and how atoms. Well, no, 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 no. And I'm just saying. So why should I care whether it's the Elohim? I don't care. Is it Jehovah, Yahweh, Yahshua? Why should I care? I'm not under that covenant. And it's very clear if you read the book, if you're a Gentile, you're a golem. You can't come into that private club. No, we've made a whole religion of it. And so we think that there's a Jesus, we think there's a Christ and a Lord, and we think there's a God, and then we got the Holy Trinity. Really? No evidence of any of that. None. But it's as real because we've been taught that that's real. And then we get so confused because we wonder, again, as I said yesterday, how can you have a belief in the origin of humanity? I mean, no one ever told me in Bible school whether Adam was a Homo sapien, a Homo sapien, was he a Homo demiscen, was he a Homo erectus? I don't know. How do you fit that into the chronology? When did this so-called white dude? Oh, wait a minute. Adam was never white. If you go by the story, he would have been black. Oh, can't have that shit. No freaking way. Yeah. Just asking a question. I'm just throwing it out there. Everyone in the chat room, I mean, if you're listening, I mean, my question is very simple. So why is that God? That God states in the book of Isaiah and the book of Jeremiah, he rejects the Gentiles. I mean, you have to understand, let's buy into the concept. So this deity or group of deities, group of geneticists, maybe. So they create us in the test tube, See, test tube baby's been here from the very beginning. That's where we came from. But anyway, now, according to their word, it says that God created man and man was perfect in his image. So then why did the Hebrew God then, and it's sacrilege, because the human body was quote unquote perfect, right, in its image and form. So then why did this Hebrew God require the males to be circumcised? See, that would be a holy sin. You're desecrating the body. This was created by the gods, or however you want to look at it. Yeah. Well, if you read the story, it says because that was his mark in the humans. That's why he could distinguish his race. That's what he calls them, his race, his people. But yet today, even the occult is so saturated with this contamination, the Golden Dawn. Classic book. I got it over here. The damn thing weighs almost 5 pounds. But as you read it, it is saturated with this being. But this is the very being who says it is angry, vengeful, jealous, seeks wrath, retribution upon its enemies. It kills even its most devoted followers. But yet, we're told, but that's Father. And yet, the debate goes on and on and on. Hey, Paul Joe. Hello, Stephanie Marie. Kathy Marshall says, yeah, I actually did. I almost converted to Judaism. Rabbi Fuchs. Now, he told me to do the Jewish people a favor and not to convert. Wise man. He obviously saw something more than I did. And Deborah Sloan said, you're right, darling. And when I talk to pastors and ministers, because I do, they always want to know, well, why'd you leave? You obviously have a mastery of the Word of God, and I do. Know it better than many of the preachers standing in a pulpit. And as Levon used to say, pulpit, it pulls you into the pit. But they said, what was it? And I tell them, I said, well, first of all, there never was a Jesus. And if you do the etymology of the word, you find out that this is just a made up name. But we've done it. And what we want to do is we want to refer it back to a time that really never existed in the context of which it's written by. But I said, the final proverbial nail in the coffin was when I picked up the book, Sumerian First, by Dr. Noah Kramer, and said, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now, these tablets who were found in the desert right there in what we know as to modern day Iran and Iraq as they meet up there. George Smith, London Museum, was out there, and a sandstorm of a magnitude, which apparently was pretty brutal. And it was after this sandstorm had gone through that they found the first temple. And they started digging. Archaeologists do that. And lo and behold, George Smith found the first tablet. We didn't even know who and what these tablets were. We didn't know what the people were. And when that was finally discovered, it blew every religion in the Western world out. In fact, the church, the Vatican, suppressed the knowledge of the Sumerians because it blows the whole story out of the water. It makes the fact that Yahweh, the Elohim, are either made up or alien invaders, or are merely masquerading as these modern Western gods And at the same time, they're just wearing a mask because if you pull the mask back, lo and behold, who do we have here? We have Enki. We have Enyel, Neanderthal. We have the gods, and they are represented as they, and their writings were 2,000, nearly 2,500 years before the first letter of so-called Moses. And what makes it even, now this is what I'm telling to pastors, and when they're listening, their jaws like, and I said, what makes it even stranger is that the very patriarch of all of the three major religions of the world, the Abrahamic religions, I said, their patriarch, where did he come from? Holy shit, came from Sumer. Well, now, wait a minute. You can't have this dude and have Sumer and then say that this dude was here all along. No, there's no record of it. But yet today we love to play the little games because, it makes it much more funner to have the debate. Well, what is God? Well, God is described, and then we get into this, and then, in the occult, hell, you get so goddamn bogged down into finding out, well, who the fuck is this Jewish guy, this Hebrew guy? Does that mean that he is a sorcerer as well as a savior? I don't know. Excuse the F-bomb, but, sometimes it's colorful. So, anyway, just a question. Yeah, it's like, geez, it's the small things in life. And I tell you, we really need to really think about the people who are really suffering. I mean, there are a segment of us, the population out there, they're not taking this Trump victory so well. TDS is real. I mean, and I don't know. Did you hear about the teacher? I think this was Monday, and I think it was Chico, California. Yeah. So normal. I mean, she was a teacher, high school. Um, Husband just said, I can't believe this happened. He said she just snapped. So she, in the middle of her class, stops, goes to her desk, pulls out these scissors, and starts singing the national anthem. And then she started going after the kids. The thing she wanted to do was to cut their hair. Well, she got one and put a pretty good swipe through that. And then she went for a girl. And of course, by this time, the students are getting the hell out of there. Yeah. Uh, Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. What does God need a starship for? Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, we really need to think of it. And I got to tell you, just get ready for that. We're in a honeymoon thing. I mean, the energy is beautiful and there's a certain groove. I guess, and also depending on your point of view. I mean, if you're on the opposite side, these are really dark. I mean, and these people are feeding into it. That's a lot of psychic energy, folks, going into this manifestation. But kid yourself not. Things are really going to get wild. If you follow what's happening to our government, uh, oh boy, all I gotta say is, yeah. So, yeah. How is everybody? Hello, Bonnie. Wow, that's an experience. Hi, Gaia. What's up? Pulse? What entity are these people being possessed by? Chloe, that's a good question because something's happening and it's real. Now, you take a certain perspective on this and you say, well, I wonder if the spirit realm, the supernatural, the paranormal is involved here. I asked someone last week, I said, so when did God get in the habit of picking winners and losers? And the person jokingly said, well, you ought to know better than any. He's been doing that from the very beginning. You start thinking about that. And here's the one thing about it. If you studied the story of Isaac and you have Esau and Jacob, so God says in the capacity of the office of Lord God, says that Esau I hated, Jacob I loved, when they were still in the womb. Now that if you take this and you tear it apart on that then suggests that we enter into the moment of conception. Well, just one particular theology. But nevertheless, let's not get lost on the fact that this God said he hated a human and then he loved a human. I mean, could you imagine coming into the world and you find out that the creator of all things says he hates you? What do you do with that? It's like, holy crap. I mean, I'm totally screwed before I even get out of the womb, you know? But anyway, what would Christ do during a war? I don't know. A lot of war has been fought in his name, that's for sure. So I'm just reading some of the comments in here. But it's just one of these questions. We get so caught up in this, man. I mean, we're on the subject of mysticism. And quite frankly, you can't have mysticism and have a religion. All religion is predicated upon mysticism. That's what I loved about young Alexander. He figured it out. People are drawn to the supernatural, and the mysticism. And that's why he had, Hellenization. He Hellenized every country that he conquered. And even today, Hellenism is still very prominent. And for you that don't know what Hellenism is, look it up. uh, Someone says, love Christ wouldn't war. Well, actually, Jesus did say, I did not come here to bring peace, but I came here to bring division and the sword. I came to separate husband from wife, father from son, mother from daughter. Hello, Goddess Abinia. How are you? Good to see you, darling. Mary Wins, hello. So how does this Jesus character, who says in one hand he come here with the sword, but on the other hand says that he's all about love? Hmm. Could it be that we don't have a freaking clue to what love really is? How would we know? It's like telling a blind person who has never had the gift of sight and try to describe the color blue, black. You probably would. I don't know. Even though black would probably be one that they could get. I don't know. I'm just saying. Hello, Twilight Mist. How you doing? Clearly, that God is not the creator of all things. That's an imposter claiming the role, because if he hated it, he would have never existed. Good logic. Now, these are the questions that, people get very uncomfortable asking. So, getting back to the Sumerians, so, you know, is the Sumerians the original story? Well, I don't know. The Hindus seem to have something that pretty much influenced a lot of that if you study religion in theology and philosophy. So we should, I guess, in essence, really be studying the Hindu culture to get a better perspective on what God is or is not. Um, See, I'm reading in some of the comments. Yeah, Grace, I would say, and And that is it. We may not know what love really is, but at least we have what we have, and we should modify that. And it's always amazing, though, isn't it odd that we have a race, a species that just can't grasp this thing about love and peace. We talk about it. We have small enclaves, but overall, you have people in power that you have to ask yourself, are they human? Can you lose your humanity? This is a question, do we really have a soul? And if we have a soul, what is the purpose? Who gave that to us? Who in this whole thing of creation? Because again, the soul comes in and out of favor. Many philosophies do not believe that we have a soul. We're a spirit, yes. It is our spirit that's experiencing this, and that's all it is. But sometimes having the soul is always a good crutch. Lost in Space, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Ego versus the human. And there you go again, the human. So in one of the Bible teachers years and years ago, because there is this thing within Christianity that hates the divine feminine. In Christianity, I don't give a fuck what you say. They hate the divine, and that's a carryover from the Hebrews. The woman was second in nature. And if you study their culture and how, when a woman was on her period, how she was removed from the community and had to stay outside the camp. And that's just only the beginning. I mean, in the temple that worship Yahweh, you had the temple prostitutes. And that gets into a weird thing. The whole story of Jacob got caught, having coitus. But yeah, I mean, and then you carry that forward, and it doesn't make sense, because I actually heard this preacher say this, that if you believe in Mother Nature, then you are a heretic. So there's no real room in the modern day religion for women, the divine feminine. It's a direct threat to the masculine. It's a monotheistic, religion, patriarchal, male. And I still contend this God is gay. I don't care what anyone says. Was gay from the beginning, and I still think he is gay. But that's just me. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But as far as learning as to what the divine feminine is, they try to pass it off as Mary, but that's bullshit. Paul rejected that, and Paul wrote the New Testament, at least the New Testament theology. The four Gospels really have very little to do with the epistles of Paul. And if you read Corinthians, you find out Paul didn't like women either, although he had a couple of friends. But, overall, as he wrote in the church, the women are to sit on the left left-hand path. They are to cover their heads, and they are not to speak. That's Christianity. So, modern day Christianity says, well, no, we reject that. We see that all genders are acceptable. Well, you hypocrite, you can't have it both ways. You can't use Paul's writings to defend your faith and your belief and then reject what he says should be done. Wasn't he hearing from God or for Jesus? I mean, didn't that who the cat he met on Damascus, in the road to Damascus? Yeah. But anyway, there you go, perfect love. And it's always the one strange thing, You see, the reason why there is no Christian God, and there isn't. And I had someone challenge me this and said, well, where's your proof? And I said, well, obviously you haven't studied the Bible, but if you go to the book of Acts and you read, and I think it's about, I don't know if it's the 17th, it's the first missionary journey that Paul did into Asia Minor. And the first place that he went to, now Paul was smart, he was wealthy, if you believe the guy existed, and if you do the history, you find out that this guy was like a Trump. His family money came from the war. They sold tents, blankets to the Roman legions. In fact, Paul gives part of that if you read where he's with Timothy and the whole story there. But so Paul has this money, and so he goes to Ephesus. Ephesus would be like London, Paris, very cosmopolitan, really hip place. We'd have loved it. All of us, we'd have loved it. Because it was really a far out place, very progressive. And so Paul wrote and he said, there was this amphitheater. It still exists. It's interesting. You can actually look at pictures. I have people that actually went over there, and it was quite amazing because this thing is like 2,100 years old. I mean, it's amazing. But anyway, and so they had this boulevard. And as you would walk down, it was paved with stone, inlaid with tile, mosaics, and they had these vestibules. And so as you're walking down this promenade, on each side, there were these little vestibules that had the gods, because it was a cosmopolitan city. And so many gods existed. And so Paul's standing up, right? And he's talking to the men, because that's what the men did back then. There was no work. Men didn't do that. Educated people, no, you didn't do that. You sat there, and if you were a dude, you'd probably get there about 10:30, 11 o'clock. You've got your mocha cafe, and and you're sitting back eating your croissant, and you have people like myself and like y'all. You would stand up and you would just start talking philosophy, death, the soul. So Paul stands up there, and it's just interesting because he said, well, as I was walking down this promenade, I came to one where this says, this is dedicated to the God that has no name. And he says, that's my God. Now, Paul is saying this, and 50 yards across, there is the synagogue. Now, Paul says that he was a Hebrew of the Hebrews and knew it very well. He was a citizen of Rome. Remember that. So how could he say that if he wasn't worshiping a different God? Because if you're looking at the synagogue, you know exactly the names of God. I got one over here that our good brother Nathan, the 72 names of God, El Shaddai, Jehovah Japha, Jehovah Rapha. I mean, I could just go through them all. So who is this God? Has no name, no image. So anyway, wasn't going to go down on that road, but anyway. Well, Carol, I don't know how to bust your bubble, darling, but there is no Satan. That's an illusion. Satan doesn't exist. Satan means an accuser. That's all. Every prosecuting attorney in every city and county in the United States would be a Satan. They're a prosecutor. But anyway. So what God was he talking about there, Chloe? I don't know. Just the small things in life, folks. It's just these things that you go, well, okay, so what are we here? What are we doing? Now, it's interesting. We're talking on mysticism. But have you read the Tibetan Book of the Dead? We've covered it here, but we're going to get into a little bit of it because, as I said, this is the death realm. Every one of us, if you're watching me, hearing me, here is an alert, newsflash. You're already dead. You're not alive. You're at best reliving an experience, a memory, a group of memories. But if you believe in the present here and now, that means the future is yet to come. And in that future, you're dead. You're gone. Now, whether someone remembers you or not, who knows? So, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Lindsay, I would agree with you on that. It says that there's 6 different stages to dying. And I thought, well, how appropriate. So let me just pull this up. So we'll have fun. We'll do some studying together. Because that's what we do. It's fun. So this is section 3, the root verses of the 6 intermediate states. Excuse me. So this is the process of leaving this realm. And it gives some context. When you look at a mystic begins to have an understanding of this, and that's why fear has no hold on them. So the Tibetan Book of the Dead says, according to this cycle of teaching, the circle of birth and death can be seen as being composed of 6 intermediate states. These 6 modalities of existence: our walking, living state, our dreaming state, meditation, and the time of death, and the 2 successive phases of the after-death state are defined in the glossary. This poem emphasizes the centrality importance of the perspective that relates to each of these states. It is recommended that practitioners should memorize these verses and recite them repeatedly while reflecting on their meaning throughout their lives. Herein contains the root verses of the 6 intermediate states. I bow down to the conquerors, the peaceful and wrathful deities. The root verses concerning the 6 intermediate states are as follows. Alas, now, as the intermediate state of living arises before me, renouncing laziness, for which there is no time in this life, I must enter the undistracted path of study, reflection, and meditation. Taking perceptual existence and the nature of mind as the path, I must cultivate actualization of the 3 Buddha bodies. Now, having obtained a precious human body, this one time, I do not have the luxury of remaining on a distracted path. I like that one part of there. So we have obtained these precious bodies, and they are indeed precious. They're unique. They have form and function. They can give both pleasure and pain. Yeah. Alas, now as the intermediate state of dreams arises before me, so he's transitioning, renouncing the corpse-like insensitive sleep of delusion, I must enter free from distracting memories. Isn't that interesting? So memories can be a hindrance. Yeah, you've heard the idiom, those people just live in the past. Don't we all? The state of abiding nature of reality. Wow. Free from distracting memories, the state of abiding nature of reality. Cultivating the experience of inner radiance. This freaking group is so beautiful. I mean, we just be so like spot on. Through the recognition, emanation, and transformation of dreams, I must not sleep like a beast, but cherish the experimental cultivation which mingles sleep with actual realization. I had one of those dreams last night, you don't shake it and you got one part and you're going, so what the heck am I telling myself here? Yeah. Renouncing the mass of distractions and confusions, I must undistractedly enter a state which is devoid of subjective apprehension and free from the two extremes, and attain stability in the stages of generation and perfection. At this moment, having renounced activity and having attained a singular concentration, I must not fall under the sway of bewildering mental afflictions. Alas, now, as the intermediate state of time of death arises before me, renouncing all attachment, yearning, and subjective apprehension in every respect, I must undistractedly enter the path on which the oral teachings are clearly understood, and reject my own awareness into the uncreated expanse of space. Intermediately upon separation from this compounded body of flesh and blood, I know this body to be like a transient illusion. Wow. Now, as the intermediate state of time of death, Lynn, she does this because she just called to it, but as a hospice nurse, you have to deal with death every day. And it's amazing because I've learned much of what she experiences. So she brings that back home and we talk about it. And Lynn, she can spot when a person's going to die. It's called FTD, fixing to die. She knows exactly what death is. She knows how death moves on the body. She's been around enough to know how the human spirit deals with this. And it's the most sci-fi world that you can imagine. And I think about this intermediate state of the time of death. So it's not permanent. It's not a permanent state. It's an intermediate. It's a phase. And here's a clue. That's why you won't have any fear of death at all when it comes. So renouncing all attachments. Now, what you're going to have to do is forget your memories. Tell them to kiss your ass, wave goodbye to everybody, tell them you had a great time, but I'm moving on. In fact, not only am I moving on, I'm looking forward to it. That's what it says. Renouncing all attachments, yearnings, and subjective apprehension in every respect. When that time comes, baby, grab a hold of it and give it a big wet kiss. Stick your tongue down its tongue and give it a French kiss, that death. Yeah. I must undistractedly enter the path on which the oral teachings are clearly understood and eject my own awareness into the uncreated expanse of space. That's a key word right there, uncreated. We don't talk much about that. We talk a lot about creation, but I don't see a whole lot of discussion on uncreated space. And that's where we're all headed, baby. Or at least according to the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So you have to reject your own awareness and realize you ain't going to have it figured out. So just strap in and enjoy the ride. Intermediately, upon separation from this compounded body of flesh and blood, I must know this body to be like a transient illusion. Alas, now, as the intermediate state of reality arises before me, that's a heavy thought. So there is this next phase of a state of reality that is within us. Renouncing the merest sense of awe, terror, or fear, I must recognize all that arises to be awareness, manifesting naturally of itself, knowing such sounds, lights, and rays to be visionary phenomena of the intermediate state. So there's a huge clue right there. I mean, Gilbert, wouldn't you say that this is like dropping some clear light acid? Knowing such sounds, lights, and rays to be visionary phenomenon of the intermediate state. Yeah, there's a reason why you ate those mushrooms. You know what I'm saying? At this moment, having reached this critical point, I must not fear the assembly of peaceful and wrathful deities which manifest naturally. So according to these very wise people that I would say know more than 99.9% of every person will ever meet, we're going to be greeted. There's apparently an assembly of peaceful and wrathful deities, gods, the elementals. I could just, my imagination to just go wild. At this moment, having reached this critical point, I must not fear the assembly. Oh, excuse me. Let me just continue on. Alas, now, as the intermediate state of rebirth arises before me, I must, with one pointed intention, concentrate my mind. Put those flap coolers there you call ears and get them in tune on this. So the fifth state is the rebirth. And it arises, I don't know, within us, but it says before us. And then you're going to have to be disciplined enough to put out the distractions and just focus in on this. And resultantly connect with the residual potency of my virtuous past actions. I must obstruct the womb entrance and call to mind the methods of reversal. This is the time when perseverance and purity of perception are imperative. I must give up all jealousy and meditate on my spiritual teacher with consort. Wow. It does give a whole different perspective, doesn't it? I'm sitting here just going, holy crap, yeah. From the mouth of the accomplished masters come these words. So I would say that it would be fortuitous for us to listen, right? From the mouth of the accomplished masters come these words, O you, with your mind far away, thinking that death will not come, entranced by the pointless activities of this life. If you were to return empty-handed now, would not your life's purpose have been utterly confused? Recognize what it is that you truly need. It is a sacred teachings for liberation. So, should you not practice this divine sacred teaching beginning from this very moment? And it is also said, if I choose not to take the oral teachings of the spiritual teacher to heart, am I not the deceiver of myself? So there they are, the 6 stages of death. Now, each one gets into a deeper meaning, but for our purpose, That just freaking blows me away. Mm. And if you don't have this, email me. You should have it in your library anyway. I have it right over there. I'm looking at it. And then it's so poignant because it pictures a slightly different reality, right? One last thing, and then tomorrow we're going to pick up on the book that we have been reading, and we may look at a little bit more at this one. But I just thought this was a cool one for you. It's not a long paper, but it says, "Is God all in your head?" And the fact is that God is, any way you look at it, a neuron. When I heard myself saying is that God is a moron, but I don't think that that was the intent nor the purpose. So, Chloe, are you a hospice nurse, darling? I did not. Are there other hospice people here, nurses? I love to call you out. I mean, listen, these are saints, and maybe you might need a hospice nurse. Um, but the really good ones, they can make the transition so much easier than you can imagine. But yeah, um, Susie Q says, I stay with the living. Yeah, but Susie, darling, the living is not a static, it's dynamic. When you die, you're still living. This body will decompose, but you, darling, that beautiful personality and look, you're going to still be living. You're just going to be living in a different state, a different realm. Yeah. Where does God ask to be called God? Well, I think you ought to read the book of Deuteronomy, the book of Exodus. Yeah, very clear. Again, unless you're Jewish or Hebrew, why does it matter what that God says? Just saying. I'm not, but have been given the opportunity to care. I see. Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you, darling. That's a beautiful service. It really is. It's really, any way you look at it. Um, and I can say this, it's a mission. And yeah, it's just something else. Paul Joe says, my wife has worked in the care home for a long time, and my daughter is in charge of hospice. There we go. Well, thank you. It's a ministry any way you look at it. But Mary, I did not know us. You've been a hospice nurse. See, and again, you learn so much, you know, and it's odd in how people um depart. Many, and I can say this, many that have a a tendency to be more Christian seem to die with a little bit more anxiety, where those who have the tendency to be more agnostic um, seem to have a very sweet exit. And it's not this well. I mean, it's very clear that something happens to the very space when a human spirit is departing these physical bodies. It's the truly when we are active in interdimensions, and it's we're all going to be there. And I'm grateful. Again, it shows the favor that's on my life and my wife's life is that we see this far more than myself. And once you learn that there is a process to this, and it's profound. And it's sad that with many people, they die with disease. I still contend that if you're fully satisfied in life, and you've done what you want to do, there's nothing wrong then to start preparing the body for separation. Nothing wrong with it at all. In fact, it's a lost art. 8 years ago with this channel, there was a person over in India that sent me a video of one of the elders of the village, and it's still taught in Hinduism, and I would probably think others, but I only had the video of he said his goodbyes, said his goodbye to his wife, his kids, grandkids, and went into his hut and laid down on his cot, pulled the blanket up because you do get cold unless your body has this ability to quickly ascend out. But within 5 minutes, he was gone. And I think that's the way it should be. I don't think it should be with divided peace, with the disease and what have you. But anyway, that's just me. So there we go. A lost start. It is, Chloe. Yeah. Chloe, I'd love to get you on, darling. Let people give a chance to see who you are. By the way, Chloe's got some beautiful crystals. I know. I bought some and they made beautiful gifts, Chloe. Just want to say they do. You see, I love this. Everyone's had, and that's what's so cool is that, all of us, we come together and we conjurgate, because that's what we do. There's great magic that's done in this group. I mean, because all magic is mental. Yeah. Where did the time go? Seriously, where did the time go? I didn't even get through with that. That's like, okay. Hey, Gilbert, what's up? And Susie, you're just a sunshine. Well, Chloe, love and favor to you too, darling. Absolutely. Hey, Emperor X. Said he saw a video where a monk compressed his being to pass on. Yeah. Mr. Floyd says, Chloe is live on my channel tomorrow night with Crystal Talk. There you go. Link provided in the chat. So, absolutely. Dr. Hugh Manuel says, cherish your mental weapons. I saw one of the very touching movies, and it was a woman who was suffering with Alzheimer's, dementia. And it was so pointed what she said to her daughter. She said, I lived a whole lifetime collecting the memories that my life meant. And she says, now I have an unseen enemy to whom I do not know and cannot see, but it's stealing my life. My memories that are the most cherished possessions I have and leave with are being stolen from me one memory at a time. Wow. I mean, that's just, well, all right, all you philosophers. It has been fun. I hope it's inspired some conversation. We'll pick up on it tomorrow because at least we know this. And to digress on the last point, somewhere deep inside of me, maybe it's a hope, maybe it's just a fallacy. I don't know, but it is my hope that with those who are indeed being stolen from their lives, one memory at a time, I truly hope that there is this server that is a part of our spirits. And though the physical mind may be losing those memories, we somehow keep them. And in point 4 of the, intermediate states, it states that we have to leave those memories behind. or be the discipline. I don't know. I guess it would be a great debate to talk about, do those memories really go away? I hope they don't, but who knows? Bonnie, right back at you. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Wins. All you beautiful people. Monkey Experience, thank you. Well, you have a wonderful day too, good friend. Absolutely. Millie, much love to you, darling. Love one, as Mary Wynn says. Absolutely. Um, so there we go. All right, folks, we'll pick up tomorrow. Much love to you, Trina. Um, she says they do. Good, sweetie. I'm glad to hear that. It's pretty much refreshing, isn't it? Chris, much love to you, brother. That's a night vision to leave on. Maybe there are uploaded into the cloud. I hope so. I mean, in my dreams, I have memories. Some of them, I'm not sure where they came from, but apparently. So, yeah, who knows? Scotty boy, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Rick, much love to you. So, everyone, open minded, peace, favor, and prosperity for all. I agree. All right. Thank you, beautiful people. Enjoy the day. Go out and skip. Go out and just be fun. Don't hurt yourself, but have fun. Um, Lost in Space, right back at you, brother. All right, everybody. Until we meet tomorrow, much love to you. Be cool and